A very good morning. Just past 8 by the clock. We're back again with another edition of Breakfast News over the next 60 minutes. This is your Power Pack News Bulletin as you sip your morning tea and coffee. I'm Anil Thomas, and to take you through to the next 60 minutes is my co-anchor Shreya this morning. Good morning, Shreya.
Good morning, Anil, and good morning, viewers. Well, it's going to be a packed one-hour show because we know yesterday the intra-Congress political turmoil is still continuing with Navjot Singh Sidhu resigning. And of course, the political cards really playing out in Punjab. We'll be getting you an update on that. And of course, updates from the international world and business and sports. But first, let's take a look at the headlines that we are tracking at this hour.
Navjot Singh Sidhu resigns as Punjab Congress chief. Former Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh says Sidhu not fit for the border state of Punjab. Party crisis in state deepens. Some ministers in Channi cabinet resign.
Indian Army eliminates 7 terrorists in 7 days, including 5 at the line of control. A 19-year-old terrorist apprehended. Indian Army says Pakistan has activated terror launch pads across the LOC. Pakistan desperate to launch a sensational strike in Kashmir.
India's cumulative vaccination coverage crosses 87 crore. Tamil Nadu government announces reopening of schools from November 1st. Home Ministry continues vigil, instructs states to enforce COVID guidelines in view of the upcoming festivals.
In international news, China witnesses major power supply crisis. Nation's industrial sector plunges into crisis. Goldman Sachs estimates that as much as 44% of China's industrial activity has been hit by power shortages.
Lionel Messi scores his first goal for PSG as they beat Manchester City in an enthralling Champions League group game. Liverpool inflict heavy defeat on FC Porto. Debutant Sheriff Tiraspol hand 13-time European champions Real Madrid a shock defeat. Well, those were the top stories at the top of this hour, starting now with heading up north to the state of Punjab, where there seems to be a lot of political turmoil within the Congress.
Absolutely. Twists and turns continued in Punjab politics, with the power struggle between Punjab government and the Punjab Congress intensifying. After Navjot Singh Sidhu resigned as the state Congress president, former Chief Minister Captain Amrinder Singh said, and I quote, "I told you so, he's not a stable man and not fit for the border state of Punjab," unquote. Adding to the trouble in the state government, some ministers in the Channi cabinet also resigned.
Rift in Congress party further widened on Tuesday after Punjab Congress's new president Navjot Singh Sidhu resigned just after 71 days. Congress infighting had come to the fore on 18th of September after the Congress party had removed Captain Amrinder Singh from the post of Chief Minister following pressure from Sidhu. Charanjit Singh Channi was made the new Chief Minister of Punjab. On Tuesday, Navjot Singh Sidhu submitted his resignation by writing a letter to the Congress interim president Sonia Gandhi. In his resignation, Sidhu wrote that the collapse of a man's character stems from the compromise corner. I can never compromise on Punjab's future and the agenda for the welfare of Punjab. Therefore, I hereby resign as the president of Punjab Pradesh Congress Committee. Will continue to serve the Congress. After his resignation, Captain Amrinder Singh once again targeted Sidhu. In a tweet, he wrote, "I told you so. He's not a stable man and not fit for the border state of Punjab."
And I say absolutely, I don't tweet unless I mean it. And what is my tweet? You can quote.
सर आपको लगता है कि सिद्धू साहब की वजह से आपको अपना पोस्ट गंवाना पड़ा? अब वो भी उन्होंने रिजाइन कर दिया है। आपको लगता है कि उनकी वजह से ही आपको अपना पोस्ट गंवाना पड़ा, आपको इस्तीफा देना पड़ा?
नहीं,
वो गलत फैसला था।
That was nothing to do with सिद्धू। सिद्धू को जब मैं कह रहा हूँ कि अनस्टेबल, तो उसको कोई रिएक्शन तो होगा ही, कुछ कहा होगा, मैंने किसी को कुछ नहीं कहा।
After the resignation of Navjot Singh Sidhu, the newly appointed Chief Minister of Punjab, Charanjit Singh Channi, said that he is not aware of Sidhu's resignation. Meanwhile, BJP, Shiromani Akali Dal and Aam Aadmi Party said Sidhu's resignation is a result of tussle within Congress.
कांग्रेस पार्टी खुद अपनी चालबाजी के चक्रव्यूह में चकनाचूर हो रही है और ये कांग्रेस पार्टी वो कांग्रेस पार्टी है जिसकी नीतियां और जिसके कार्यक्रम और जिसके नेतृत्व पूरी तरह से नकारात्मकता से भरपूर रहे हैं और जिसका क्या असर उनके ऊपर दिखाई पड़ रहा है।
नवजोत सिद्धू है आप मिसगाइडेड मजाइल है एदा पता नहीं किदे ते डिगूगा ते किनू मारूगा।
पूरी महाभारत सत्ता की है और कुर्सी की है। इनको पंजाब की गवर्नेंस से, पंजाब के लोगों से, उनकी समस्याओं से कोई लेना देना नहीं है। सिर्फ अपनी कुर्सी की लड़ाई ये लोग लड़ रहे हैं।
Congress leader Rahul Gandhi attended a public event in Delhi, but he also did not talk about Navjot Singh Sidhu's resignation. Bureau Report, DD India.
And well, my colleague Akanksha Saxena, who's been tracking all the updates in Chandigarh, is joining us right now for more on this story. Akanksha, good morning. Now, the latest we knew that Navjot Singh Sidhu has resigned. The Chief Minister of Punjab said that he doesn't have any clue on this. And of course, we are seeing the Congress president, interim president, being mum on all of this case. What is the latest update on the situation right now? Do we have any clarity on Navjot Singh Sidhu citing any reason of his resignation?
As for now, there is no news from Sidhu's side. Rather, after the cabinet meeting yesterday also, some of the ministers and some of the MLAs did go to his residence in Patiala, and it is said that they are trying to talk it out with him because they don't want that at this point, when it is the newly elected cabinet is there, so anything of the sort happens, and because it will hamper the forthcoming elections in Punjab.
Also, Akanksha, looking at the way things have been going about, we had Captain Amrinder Singh coming to Delhi, having a meeting with the Home Minister. Is that a trickle-down effect that you see, what took place in Punjab?
See, right now the thing is that from the time when Sidhu was made the Congress president here, things were not right. There was always underlying tension between Congress, and they were not cordial with each other, though the High Command in Delhi tried their level best to bring them on one platform. But somehow, something or the other used to happen which was not in control of High Command, and that is how I think a decision was taken that Captain Amrinder Singh was told to leave the Chief Ministership. But still you can see that there is an unrest. There are still people who are not satisfied with anything, and still we can see that there is some kind of there is no consensus between the Punjab Congress yet.
Okay.
And yes, with the Captain Amrinder Singh making an exit, it can be said that he would be joining any party or he would be floating his own party. But as for now, nothing clear has come.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to see how that pans out, how the situation pans out in Punjab right now. Of course, the political crisis continuing in the state of Punjab. Thanks very much, Akanksha Saxena, for joining us with those updates.
Well, moving on to our next story, that's from the Indian Army, especially in Jammu and Kashmir, where they have eliminated 7 terrorists, including a Pakistani terrorist, along the line of control in the past 1 week. The army also apprehended a Pakistani terrorist during the operations. There is more egg on Pakistan's face, even as Pakistan continues with its desperate policy to using terrorists in a proxy war against India. A latest congressional report on terrorism, has laid bare how Pakistan is home to at least 12 groups designated as foreign terrorist organizations, including India-centric ones such as the Lashkar-e-Taiba and the Jaish-e-Mohammed. Here's more in this report.
Indian Army eliminates 7 terrorists in 1 week. Pakistan activates terror launch pads. Pakistan desperate to strike in Kashmir. Pakistan is doing what it is best known to do, exporting terrorism across borders. The Indian Army announced on Tuesday that it eliminated 7 terrorists that had infiltrated from Pakistan in the last 1 week, 5 of them at the line of control. The army also apprehended a 19-year-old Pakistani terrorist in Uri in Baramulla district who has identified himself as Ali Baba Batra, son of late Muhammad Latif, a resident of Punjab province in Pakistan.
He has admitted that he is a member of Lashkar-e-Taiba. He was trained by that outfit, and giving details of his training, he has revealed that he underwent a 3 weeks course in 2019 at Khyber camp, Gadi Habibullah, Muzaffarabad.
The army said that the infiltration could not have taken place with the active complicity of the Pakistan army.
There has been a lot of movement in the launch pad across line of control. You would recall that their infiltration attempt has also been made on 18th when 3 terrorists were neutralized in the neighboring area.
The army also said that given the recoveries made and the modus operandi of the infiltrating group, they have reason to believe that the terrorist and his accomplices came in to conduct a strike in Kashmir. The infiltration attempt was made in the same area of Samalabad Nala, which has been often used as an infiltration route, including by suicide attackers who targeted the Uri garrison in 2016. Pointing to increased activity on terror launch pads close to LOC, the army revealed that Islamabad was desperate to send in terrorists to create disturbance and carry out a sensational strike in Kashmir.
Now it shows the desperation of Pakistan when he sees that the peace and stability in Kashmir is something that is not to Pakistan's liking. So there is desperation to send in terrorists to create disturbance and some kind of a sensational strike.
The Indian Army's operation comes days after a US congressional report on terrorism that gives details of how Pakistan is home to at least 12 foreign terrorist organizations, including 5 India-centric ones like the Lashkar-e-Taiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed. It notes that the LET, formed in 1980s and designated as foreign terrorist organization in 2001, was responsible for the terror attacks in Mumbai as well as numerous other high-profile attacks. On Jaish-e-Mohammed, the report points to how, along with LET, it was responsible for the 2001 attack on the Indian Parliament, among other attacks. The report also acknowledges the presence of other terrorist groups inside Pakistan, such as Al-Qaeda in the Indian subcontinent, Islamic State Khorasan province, the Afghan Taliban, the Haqqani Network, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, Balochistan Liberation Army, Jundullah, Sipah-e-Sahiba Pakistan and Lashkar-e-Janvi. The congressional reports are prepared by independent experts at periodic intervals for the US lawmakers to take informed decisions. The report further corners Pakistan, grey-listed by the Financial Action Task Force, and may further fuel anger within the US strategic community over Pakistan's duplicitous role in Afghanistan. With inputs from Salman Qazi in Kashmir, Bureau Report, DD India.
Now remember, addressing the 76th session of the United Nations General Assembly on Saturday, Prime Minister Narendra Modi had in fact pointed to how extremism was on the rise and reminded countries that the use of terrorism as a political tool, to not forget that such a strategy is a double-edged sword, meaning that such a policy would hurt the aggressor countries as much. Listen in.
विश्व के सामने रिग्रेसिव थिंकिंग और एक्सट्रीमिज्म का खतरा बढ़ता जा रहा है। रिग्रेसिव थिंकिंग के साथ जो देश आतंकवाद का पॉलिटिकल टूल के रूप में इस्तेमाल कर रहे हैं, उन्हें ये समझना होगा कि आतंकवाद उनके लिए भी उतना ही बड़ा खतरा है। ये सुनिश्चित किया जाना बहुत जरूरी है कि अफगानिस्तान की धरती का इस्तेमाल आतंकवाद फैलाने और आतंकी हमलों के लिए न हो। हमें इस बात के लिए भी सतर्क रहना होगा कि वहां की नाजुक स्थितियों का कोई देश अपने स्वार्थ के लिए एक टूल की तरह इस्तेमाल करने की कोशिश न करे।
Well, India's Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla said that in all the meetings during Prime Minister Modi's US visit, there was a recognition of the fact that Pakistan nurtures and promotes cross-border terrorism. In fact, both the Quad and the India-US joint statements reflect India's concerns on Pakistan's support to terrorism. Listen in.
In all the meetings the Prime Minister had, beginning with US leadership, there was suo motu recognition of the concerns that Pakistan represents as a country that has, in many senses, both supported and nurtured cross-border terrorism, including in Afghanistan and from Afghanistan. There was a sense that that situation needs to be watched very carefully, and that the international community needs to ensure that Pakistan fulfills its obligation as a member of the Committee of Nations in its basic obligations, that it does not in any way work against the detriment of its neighbors or any other country in the world.
All right, moving on, an update now on the nationwide COVID-19 vaccination drive. The COVID-19 vaccination coverage has crossed 87 crore. Over 87 crore, 61 lakh vaccine doses have been administered across the country so far. Over 49 lakh 45,000 vaccine doses have been administered till Tuesday, 7 p.m.
Well, vaccination there leading to a lot of relaxations, and heading down south to Tamil Nadu, where the Tamil Nadu government has announced the reopening of schools for classes 1 to 8 from November 1st. The students will return to schools after a gap of almost 19 months. Physical classes for classes 9th to 12th have already been allowed since September 1st. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin in a statement said that medical experts, parents and educationalists had pointed out that students were stressed and facing huge learning loss due to the prolonged closure of schools. He added, keeping their views in mind, all schools will be allowed to conduct physical classes for classes 1 to 8 from November 1st by following COVID-19 protocols. The Tamil Nadu Chief Minister also ordered the School Education Department to take all precautionary measures. The government has allowed people to attend district local administration meetings and vaccination camps. However, social, political, cultural gatherings, festivals and the consecration of places of worship will continue to be prohibited. All places of worship will continue to be closed on 3 weekend days, that's Friday to Sunday, and the activities already allowed by the government will continue in accordance with the existing guidelines issued for preventing corona infection till October 31st.
Well, from Tamil Nadu, let's go across to northeastern Assam, where physical classes for lower and upper primary students will resume from the 19th of the next month. An SOP issued by the Education Department said that classes will be held for 3 days from classes 1st to grade 5th, while classes for remaining 3 days will be held for the 6th to 8th standard. However, not more than 30 students would be allowed in a section. The SOP also stated that if required, online classes will be continued. Meanwhile, physical class for 9th standard students will start from the 1st of October.
With festive season set to begin soon, the Centre on Tuesday wrote to Chief Secretaries, administrators of all states and union territories on COVID-19 safety behaviour. In letters to states and union territories, Home Secretary Ajay Bhalla said there is a possibility that COVID-appropriate behaviour will not be adhered to strictly with the decline in cases during the festive season. He asked them to maintain utmost vigil in respect of mass gatherings to avoid a surge in cases. The letter stated that large-scale gatherings in fairs, festivals and religious events and functions may lead to fresh surge in COVID cases in the country. States and union territories have been asked to closely monitor case positivity, hospital, ICU occupancy of every district on a regular basis. States having high positivity in their district should take proactive containment measures to effectively arrest the spike in cases and contain the spread of transmission. Home Ministry has asked states and union territories to focus on the five-fold strategy of test, track, treat, vaccination and adherence to COVID-appropriate behavior. They have been asked to continue with their vaccination program with the focus on accelerating vaccination of eligible age groups and prioritizing of the second dose of eligible beneficiaries. Well, we've got our correspondent standing by, Arun Sharma, joining us this morning to give us an insight into this new guidelines that's been issued. Arun, take us through, some of the salient features of this particular guidelines and how different is it from the previous guidelines that have been issued? Are there more relaxations in place? And how should one look forward, especially to this festive season ahead?
Well, so just ahead of the festive season, Home Ministry primarily has written to all the states to ensure that there is, proper COVID-appropriate behavior, and has also mentioned a 5-tier strategy for all the states to follow. That's testing, tracking, treatment, vaccination drive, of course, and of course the COVID-appropriate behavior. Now, often we have seen in last 1.5 years that whenever there was a festive time, we have seen increase in number of cases. The festive season now over here begins from 7th of October with Navratra, and it will go on till the end of this year with the end of Christmas and of course the New Year time. So this 2 to 2.5 months of time will be very much crucial, because we have often seen earlier also that during the festive season we have seen a recent spike as well. Be it the western part of our country or the southern part of our country, they have recently also seen a spike in the number of COVID cases because of the festive season. So in that context only, Home Ministry has written letter to all the states to ensure that there is proper vigilance. Of course, COVID-appropriate behavior should be adopted. A second important aspect is that Home Ministry has written to all the states, and as clearly mentioned this point, that there should be proper monitoring as far as the ICU beds and ventilators in respective districts or states are concerned. Because, as the number of positive cases rises, is that reflecting into number of beds being occupied in the ICU or the ventilators? That should be clearly monitored from the state's side at the district level as well. And if in case the number of positive cases are increasing and the number of beds are also being occupied, there has to be an alert in that context. So yes, it's an important, a guideline primarily. And the crux of this letter is, of course, the testing, tracking and treatment, COVID-appropriate behavior and COVID vaccination part. Now, we know this fact, Anil, that close to 25% of our entire eligible population is doubly vaccinated. And we're inching towards 90 crore mark primarily as far as vaccination drive is concerned. So yes, vaccination drive is going on in full swing, but yes, now COVID-appropriate behavior is the key, because now we are witnessing that various international flights are being opened as far as the air bubble agreement is concerned. Various other countries, we are forming various air bubble agreement with various countries, so international travel is also gradually being opened. Number 2, schools are gradually being opened, and number 3, the festive season is here. So as in all these three contexts, it is very much important to ensure that there is proper COVID-appropriate behavior, and that's the reason the centre has written letter to the states.
Arun, a considerable part of our population is of course vaccinated, but we do know that we've seen a spike during festive time. But on ground, apart from this guideline that the ministry has issued, apart from this on ground, how are the authorities planning to deal with people following COVID-appropriate behavior? Because we know that while a part of our population does follow that, there are still some people who are not following COVID-appropriate behavior. So how do the authorities plan to manage that on ground?
Well, as far as authorities are concerned, the clear-cut strategy is about the awareness aspect. More you create awareness, people are aware about the fact. Now, we are witnessing that in big cities, we are witnessing that people are wearing masks. But if you go to the tier 2 towns, small villages, small towns, people are not, very much proactive as far as wearing of masks are concerned. So in that context, at the district level, booth level, and of course the panchayat level even, it is to be ensured that the authorities ensure that there is awareness, proper awareness about the COVID-19 appropriate behavior. And in that context, the Home Ministry or Centre has often written to the states to ensure that the states at the district level, at the booth level, to ensure that there is COVID appropriate behavior. That's number 1. Number 2, as far as vaccination is concerned, we have earlier seen that how there used to be, primarily hesitancy as far as vaccine is concerned, but now gradually we have seen that people are coming forward for vaccination aspect of the vaccination drive. Similarly, it is to be ensured that opening up of the economy, opening up of air travel or international travel gradually, via air bubble agreement, opening up of schools gradually does not mean that COVID virus is gone. It only means that we have to live with the COVID virus, ensuring proper COVID appropriate behavior. And you can't force people to follow some kind of rules as far as COVID-19 is concerned. The only thing is that it comes from you or from yourself only. So the better part is awareness, and that's what the states and center are trying to do, to create proper awareness at the booth level, at the panchayat level. So people do come forward and do follow the COVID appropriate behavior as well.
Also when it comes to purely the states that one looks at, especially, southern states that have been seeing a regular uptick when it comes to cases. How does the state government there manage this particular, problem, especially this festive season, where there are going to be a lot of requests that are going to come in? How does the state government go ahead and, manage the festive season and also keep in check the vaccination drive along with the number of testing that continues in especially those sensitive states?
So we know this fact in southern part of our country, we have seen a spike in the number of cases. But various other research institutions, international organizations are of the view that now COVID is entering its endemic stage as well. So it's a good news. But yes, local transmissions can be seen in the form of third wave. That's what various international institutions are now seeing. But yes, as far as a country like India is concerned, with mass population of close to 130 crore, the focus is only COVID appropriate behavior. Now, how will state government will ensure this point? Number one, in this post-pandemic time or during the pandemic time, the way we used to celebrate our festivals is completely changed. Now, recently we have seen how Ganesh Chaturthi was celebrated. Earlier, in a pre-COVID pandemic time, we have seen how Ganesh Chaturthi was celebrated, and post-pandemic time, we have seen that how people are following, COVID-appropriate behavior. No mass congregation is being seen, and we have seen this for various other festivals as well. So now the state government will have to ensure that how there are proper guidelines. Now states have the power. The center has given powers to the state that how will they ensure that people are following COVID appropriate behavior. There is no mass congregation. Of course, there is no gathering primarily as far as, any festival is concerned. So the festive season starts from the month of October. It stays till the end of this year. That means till December 31st in the form of New Year. So yes, it's to be ensured that the state government to ensure that they are strict in nature. They ensure that there is proper COVID appropriate behavior. There is social distancing at each and every level, and people are not gathering primarily at any point or at any given point. So this is some of the strategies being followed by state, because now states have the complete power to ensure that how can COVID appropriate behavior can be ensured. Because you can say that we are in last leg of our fight against COVID-19. The virus is there to stay, but we can suppress the number of positive cases, because yesterday was a good day because number of COVID cases, the daily COVID cases was 18,000. Now this 18,000 new cases on a daily basis we have got after 201 days. So this gives a sense that number of cases are declining going forward on a daily basis, and of course on a weekly basis as well. But if in case during the festive time, if we are seeing mass gathering and people are not following a social distancing norms, so we can witness another spike in the form of third wave in respective pockets of our country. And we have seen this in other part of the world as well. In various other part of the world, we are witnessing third wave in respective pockets of the respective countries. So that should not happen, and that is what the government is trying to ensure, that there has to be COVID appropriate behavior, even or despite you are doubly vaccinated, even if you have taken all your vaccination apart. But yes, the aspect is that you have to maintain COVID appropriate behavior, you have to maintain social distancing. And while maintaining social distancing and all COVID appropriate behavior, be in a festive mood, that's not a problem. But yes, you should ensure COVID appropriate behavior. So that's what the center is reiterating again and again.
Okay, since you mentioned, following COVID appropriate behavior, but also when it comes to interstate travel, especially from the states that have been affected and, neighboring states like Maharashtra, or for that matter, many other states down south, especially, heading into western and east central part of India. Do you somewhere feel that states would also come out with their own set of guidelines, coinciding with the central guidelines, the Ministry of Home guidelines, to keep things under control, especially, keeping the state, and the people in the state, safer?
And also, just to add to it, Arun, we're seeing whether it's Tamil Nadu or Assam or the national capital, schools are reopening. And of course, one of the major concerns has been children getting affected. Now, we know that trials for vaccination for children have been going on. What's the update on that?
So just to club these both questions, number one, Anil, as far as interstate travel is concerned, we know this fact that Centre has given complete power to the states in its last guideline and said that whatever measures are being required for controlling or containing the COVID cases, the states can take action on that part. Now, we have seen it how India is forming air bubble agreement with various countries. Now, air travel with Canada, we have seen it how air bubble agreement is being formed, and there are various direct flights with Canada. There are direct flights with various other countries as well, including Bangladesh and, of course, the BIMSTEC countries as well. So, yes, India on whole is forming air bubble agreements with various other countries so that there is air travel possible. Now, coming back to the interstate travel, yes, the states are having absolute power as to what measure should be ensured. So RT-PCR test before the travel or prior to 72 hours of travel is what is being required by the state governments in various states. Primarily, they're asking for RT-PCR tests. That's number one. There are various states in our country that are ensuring that if in case a passenger is doubly vaccinated, there's no need for RT-PCR tests. So it is up to the states that what sort of a requirement is being or primarily what sort of rules should be implemented so that there is control on the COVID-19 cases. The good news is that we are inching towards lower number of cases now. 18,000 cases on a daily basis, that's what the number we achieved yesterday. And gradually on a weekly basis, there is a decline. Number two, Shreya, coming back to your question. Now, globally, we have seen that schools, whenever the schools have reopened, we've again seen the number of cases going up. Be it country like Singapore, be it country like USA, whereby, the schools were open and we have seen the number of cases increasing. In fact, we have seen that the number of cases being witnessed in the school kids or the children as well. Now, the center clearly mentions this point and the health ministry clearly says this point that, various research were done. The number of COVID people who are infected by COVID-19, this number is equal in the children as well. That means if in case 5 adults were infected with COVID-19 virus, the same number of pattern was seen in the children as well. So children are equally vulnerable. But yes, the good news is that India has geared up its infrastructure as far as COVID-19 infection is concerned. Number two, vaccination. We know this fact that the government has given approval for vaccinating the school or primarily the kids above the age of 12. That means till now we are vaccinating people who are above the age of 18 and we have achieved the target of close to 90 crore, you can say that, up to 90 crore, whereby we have vaccinated close to 90 crore people. But gradually we can see that by the end of this year, we'll be witnessing that the students or the kids, or the primary teenagers primarily, above the age of 12 will be vaccinated soon because the government has given approval for them and various trials were being done by vaccine manufacturers like Zycov-D or Zydus Cadila.
Okay.
So yes, very soon we'll be witnessing that teenagers above the age of 12 will also be vaccinated. So vaccination is a strategy, and of course COVID-19 appropriate behavior is a strategy, and social distancing, that's the strategy to fight or beat COVID-19 pandemic at this point in time.
Okay, very much guidelines in place and also hope that the vaccinations for children will soon come out. As our correspondent put it, that 5-fold strategy that one looks about for test, track, treat along with vaccination and following COVID appropriate behavior. That's the way ahead, especially in this festive season, if we want to enjoy the festivals in the right spirit.
Absolutely. I think it's rightly said, freedom comes with responsibility.
True.
If you're going out, then you have a responsibility of following COVID appropriate behavior. The virus is still around even if you are vaccinated.
So there's no option of a trade-off that people
Yes.
look at. I've got vaccinated, so no need to follow those protocols. Please do that. They go hand in hand because we all need to see better tomorrow. Well, let's now come back to news and look at central government. What has the central government done? They have increased the income limit of the specially abled dependents for family pension. The Defence Ministry has taken the decision to enhance the income criteria for grant of family pension to children or siblings having physical disabilities or mental disabilities. Such child or sibling shall be eligible for family pension for life if their overall income from sources other than the family pension remains less than the entitled family pension at ordinary rate. The financial benefit in such cases shall occur with effect from 8th of February of this year. Presently, the specially abled children or sibling is eligible for family pension if overall monthly income from other sources other than the family pension is not more than 9,000 rupees along with dearness relief.
Moving on, we every day get you a saga of freedom struggle, and in today's episode we will get you the story of Matangini Hazra, who laid her life for the national honour during the Quit India movement. We will also tell you about an incident which shaped the course of history, the Komagata Maru incident, a Japanese ship carrying 165 Indian passengers that arrived at Calcutta from Canada. Let's see what we have in store today.
This day in 1942, Matangini Hazra laid her life for the national honour during Quit India movement. She was shot dead by the British Indian police in front of the Tamlu police station, Medinipur district, West Bengal on September the 29th, 1942.
O amar desher mati tomar pore thekai matha.
She was affectionately known as Gandhi Buri, meaning Old Lady Gandhi in Bengali. Matangini Hazra was born in the small village of Hogla near Tamluk in 1869. She was married early and widowed at 18 without bearing any offspring.
Influenced by the Gandhian philosophy, she became actively interested in the Indian independence movement. She took part in the civil disobedience movement and was arrested for breaking the SALT Act. She was incarcerated for 6 months at Behrampur jail.
As part of the Quit India movement, Matangini Hazra, who was 73 years old at the time, led a procession of 6,000 supporters with the purpose of taking over the Tamluk police station. This was to be a step in overthrowing the British government in the district and establishing an independent Indian state.
When the procession reached the outskirts of the town, they were ordered to stop by the police. As Matangini stepped forward, she was shot by the police. One after another, 3 gunshots were fired at the 73-year-old Matangini Hazra.
With each gunshot, her voice chanting Vande Mataram got louder, and the tricolour that she held in her hand went higher. She died with the tricolour held high and still flying.
The parallel Tamlu government incited open rebellion by praising her martyrdom for her country and was able to function for 2 more years until it was disbanded in 1944 at Gandhiji's request.
Post-independence in 1977, Matangini Hazra's statue was put up in Kolkata. It was the first statue of a woman put up in Kolkata in independent India. Her statue now also stands at the spot where she was killed in Tamluk.
On this day, an event that shaped the conditions of Indian immigrants took place. Komagata Maru, the Japanese ship carrying 165 Indian passengers, arrived at Calcutta from Canada. Most of them were from the Punjab province. The ship was denied dock permission by Canada.
Upon its arrival in Calcutta on 27th September, British gunboats blocked the ship's entry into the port. The passengers were treated as lawbreakers and political agitators. A general riot ensued as the police entered the ship to capture the leaders. 19 passengers were shot and killed, and the rest were incarcerated.
The Komagata Maru incident was widely cited at the time by Indian groups to highlight discrepancies in Canadian immigration laws. Further, the inflamed passions were cultivated by the Indian Revolutionary Organization, the Ghadar Party, to rally support for its aims.
In a number of meetings ranging from California in 1914 to the Indian diaspora, prominent Ghadarites, including Barkatullah, Tarak Nath Das and Sohan Singh, used the incident as a rallying point to recruit members for the Ghadar movement.
Well, time now to head into a short breather here. Lots more from the world of international news and sports on the other side. Stay tuned.
With the world's largest COVID vaccination drive, India is leading the way. As the vaccine reaches every corner of the nation, do not forget the mantra, Dawai bhi, Kadai bhi. Let's continue our fight against COVID-19. Vaccination along with social distancing, sanitization and masks.
Mask up, India!
Put your mask on and cover your nose and be safe.
Mask up, India.
Welcome back to Breakfast News, and let's now get to you all the news that is making news across the world in our segment Across the Globe.
We're starting first up with neighboring China, which is witnessing an unprecedented power supply crisis that has turned critical in recent days, threatening the entire power grids as industrial production grinds to a halt and traffic lights fail amid power rationing. With more than half of the countries enduring power cuts, making it one of the most extreme energy rationing in the nation's history, especially as it hit regular households. It has triggered widespread alarm among much of the population and plunging the nation's industrial sector into chaos. Poor communication and unclear timeline for power rationing has worsened the confusion, with many angry and confused residents taking their complaints to social media. The power cuts are mainly due to insufficient coal supply. As temperatures drop in China's northeast, the residents have started to turn up the heating, driving up electricity usage. Many companies, including small firms, have had to shift production to overnight, reduce the output, or cease operations entirely. Experts also expect the wide-reaching impacts from the dramatic cuts in energy consumption to last until the end of this year.
Britain's supply chain strain could last until after Christmas. That's what British Prime Minister Boris Johnson admitted as he urged motorists to stop panic buying fuel by insisting supplies were improving. Thousands of forecourts remained dry. Britain's Prime Minister intervened after being accused by the Labour of reducing the country to chaos, with car queues continuing to build up and fights breaking out at petrol stations, while teachers and hospital workers were left unable to get to work. Johnson sought to reassure people that there was no shortage of fuel at refineries, adding that he knew the difficulties had been infuriating. Johnson has stressed that everyone should go about their business in a normal way. Meanwhile, Britain has put a limited number of military tanker drivers on a state of readiness to be deployed to deliver fuel if necessary.
Moving on to North Korea and its testing, the country has claimed that it has successfully tested a new hypersonic missile called Hwasong-8 on Tuesday. The state media said the new missile was one of the 5 most important new weapon systems laid out in its 5-year military development plan. They call the new missile a strategic weapon, which usually means it has nuclear capabilities. Tuesday's launch is another indication of Pyongyang's growing weapons technology amid strict sanctions. The latest launch also marked the country's 3rd missile test this month. It has already revealed a new type of cruise missile as well as a new train-launched ballistic missile system. According to South Korea's military, North Korea fired the missile towards the sea off its east coast as Pyongyang called on the United States and South Korea to scrap their double standards on weapons program to restart diplomatic talks. North Korea has been steadily developing its weapon system amid an impasse over the talks aimed at dismantling its nuclear and ballistic missile arsenal in return for US sanctions relief.
Updates from Europe now. In Germany, the process towards the formation of a coalition government has started as the centre-left Social Democrats, or SPD, led by Olaf Scholz, claim a narrow victory over incumbent Chancellor Angela Merkel's Christian Democratic Union, or the CDU. Now, SPD took a narrow lead with 25.7% of the vote, followed by the bloc led by Merkel's conservative Christian Democrats with 24.1%, which is their lowest vote share. The Greens won 14.8%, their best performance in a national poll, while the liberal pro-business Free Democrats took 11.5%. Now, Olaf Scholz has claimed victory and shown interest in working with the Greens. Armin Laschet, the Conservative leader, has also promised to put every effort to ensure a CDU-led government. Now, that leaves the Greens and the Liberals as the kingmakers, since the Socialists and the Conservatives, currently coalition partners in the Merkel government, will not be together again. The next government is set to be a three-way coalition.
Well, U.S. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, said on Tuesday that the U.S. missed the warning signs about the coming failure of leadership and will in its Afghan allies that ultimately led to their collapse and the Taliban takeover on August 15th. Milley made the remarks in testimony to the Senate Armed Services Committee, where he and U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin were questioned by Republicans and Democrats about the chaotic aftermath of the U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan. Republican lawmakers accused President Joe Biden of lying about recommendations from his military that some troops should be kept in the country. And even Biden's Democrats expressed frustration with the withdrawal that led to U.S. troops dead and American citizens left behind. Milley refused to be drawn to whether Biden had lied when pressed by Republican Senator Dan Sullivan. The hearing comes weeks after a chaotic withdrawal at Kabul airport as foreign powers sought to get their citizens home and thousands of desperate Afghans begged for rescue.
Now, taking an update from Spain's Cumbre Vieja volcanic eruption, red-hot lava from a volcano that devastated the Spanish island of La Palma reached the Atlantic Ocean late Tuesday evening, 9 days after it started to flow down the mountain, wrecking buildings and destroying crops. Spain's government classified the island of La Palma as a disaster zone on Tuesday, a move set to trigger emergency subsidies and other support measures. Now, the lava has been flowing down the volcano's western flank toward the sea since September 19th. It has destroyed almost 600 houses and banana plantations in La Palma, which neighbors Tenerife in the Canary Islands off the North African coast. Thousands have been evacuated and 3 coastal villages were locked down on Monday in anticipation of the lava meeting the Atlantic Ocean. Spain has classified La Palma as a disaster zone, a move that will trigger financial support for the island.
Well, a quick look at COVID-19 updates from across the world on how the numbers stack up. Total cases 23 crores 35 lakh, total recoveries 21 crores, total deaths 47 lakh 78,000. United States, the worst affected by the pandemic right from its beginning to its present day, with the Delta variant causing havoc. Over 4 crore 40 lakh cases of COVID-19. The fatalities in the United States now past the 7 lakh mark, over 7 lakh 11,000 deaths being reported in the United States of America.
And keeping with updates on COVID, the head of the World Trade Organization on Tuesday said that the low COVID-19 vaccination rate of around 4% in Africa is devastating, saying that trade should help address vaccine inequity. Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala's remarks came at the opening session of a Geneva-based trade event. Also voicing his concerns at the event was South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa. He said a waiver on patents was needed to save millions of lives during the pandemic. The WTO began discussions on a waiver to intellectual property rules for COVID-19 products about a year ago. But several countries with strong pharmaceutical industries, including host Switzerland, remain opposed. Also at the event, the WTO said it expected all countries, including China, to collaborate in the second phase of a probe into the origins of the virus.
While nearly 60% of people in developed countries are fully vaccinated, in Africa the figure is barely 4%. This is devastating for the lives and livelihoods of Africans. It is morally unacceptable, and as new variants spread, a threat to the health and economic recovery everywhere.
This is not the time just to be unidimensionally focused on just profit. This is the time to save lives.
Well, moving from all the international updates to our next segment on sports called Sports Track. Well, starting first up, Lionel Messi in new colours, and he's scoring his first Paris Saint-Germain goal in stunning fashion as they beat Manchester City 2-0 in an enthralling Champions League group game. Messi making his fourth appearance for PSG since leaving Barcelona, ran from the halfway line before playing a 1-2 with Mbappe, leaving Ederson rooted to the spot with a lovely 20-yard shot. This was his 7th goal in 5 Champions League games against teams managed by Pep Guardiola, his former Barcelona boss, and his 7th goal against City.
Well, Liverpool cruised to another emphatic victory in Porto with Mohamed Salah and Roberto Firmino both scoring twice as the Reds won 5-1 in the Champions League. Klopp's side was superb throughout as they maintained their 100% start in the competition. With memories of 4-1 and 5-0 victories in the recent campaigns fresh in the mind, they delivered a performance brimming with pace, precision and energy.
However, setback for Real Madrid as they slumped to a 1-2 defeat to Moldavian side Sheriff Tiraspol in the Champions League on Tuesday night as the visitors pulled off one of the biggest shocks in the competition's history with a stunning 89th minute strike from Sebastian Till. Champions League debutant Sheriff went ahead against the 13-time European champions in the 25th minute with a header from Uzbek midfielder, who narrowly missed a chance to double the lead later in the first half. The Spaniards looked set to go on to win the game after Karim Benzema levelled from the spot. A Real winner looked inevitable, but instead it came down from the other end when Till tried his luck from the edge of the box, scoring the most important goal in his club's brief history.
All right, after that, let's take a look at today's weather forecast.
Well, at this point of time, let's take a look at the weather satellite. A well-marked low-pressure area that's lying over Madhya Maharashtra, joining Gujarat region and southwest Madhya Pradesh, and also cyclonic circulations in many places. What it means is that we'll see heavy to very heavy rainfall with extremely heavy falls and very likely over isolated places in the state of Gujarat. Heavy to very heavy rainfall at isolated places over Gangetic West Bengal, Odisha, Jharkhand, North Madhya Maharashtra and North Konkan. Heavy rainfall at isolated places over Marathwada region also expected. Well, time now to take a look at the temperatures across India. Well, that's all we have time for in this edition of news. But remember that fight against COVID-19 continues. So follow all COVID-19 appropriate behaviors. And also, if you have not still vaccinated, remember 1 in every 4 Indian is vaccinated. But if you're not vaccinated, please step out, get yourself vaccinated, because if you get yourself vaccinated, you do not only yourself a great good, but you also do the entire society a larger good. Remember, if you and I get vaccinated, we all stand a better chance, as I said. to see a better tomorrow. Well, what's the visual of the day that we're looking for?
Well, a flower blooming in the desert proves to the world that adversity, no matter how great, can be overcome. Now, a sheer wheel of mauve purple hues has covered Chile's Atacama Desert. The blooming of this desert, remember, is a rare phenomena that takes place every 5 to 7 years. We're leaving you with these glimpses as we wrap up Breakfast Show, but news and updates continue on DD India on the other side. Thank you very much for joining us right now. Have a great day ahead. Bye-bye.
Take care.